Bon après-midi, which just means hello, good afternoon. Kishtikayhk, Berna-Dean Gaudry Holland. Bernie for short. My friends call me Bernie. And today I thought that I would chat a little bit about plants that I've come to really love, prairie plants that I've come to love through the years. And I was always taught to really, really respect Mother Earth, nature. Only take what you need. So that's why I actually, really think of plants as our friends. And I sort of would like to consider them as flower friends. And so one of the Michif words for that is le fleur Misami, Misami meaning friend. I thought I'd start with talking about one of my very favorite plants, which is not only a beautiful plant, but it's a very special plant, and that is fireweed. And fireweed is a plant that Métis have used for a very long time, both as a food and as medicine. One of the reasons why it's called that is because it has a really special ecological value, and that is that when there's been a fire that has ravaged the land, it is one of the very first plants that will establish itself. In fact, it's referred to as a pioneer plant. And that just simply means that it's able to, in a soil that is disturbed, it can lay its seeds down, which are really lovely, white, fluffy seeds that will fly through the air and grow where things have been rather ravaged. And then that creates a lattice and an underground network of little roots and stuff for microorganisms and other plants to then come and benefit from the soil that is now becoming more organic and also nicely supplied with nutrients and such. So it's a special plant in that way. So blanket flower, which I grew up calling them brown-eyed Susans, but that may or may not be the same. Like, it's just that that's what Dad said they were, but such a beautiful, shiny, happy flower. That in itself to me is medicine. When you see something so pretty on the prairie. And actually my understanding is they were called blanket flower because back in the old times when people would trade in the trade industry, trade blankets and stuff, some of them were really colorful blankets, red and yellow and all these different things. So I think that's partially what it is. And maybe it's also because of the fact that if they grow in a cluster, it kind of looks like a really beautiful blanket. So the next plant that I wanted to talk about is a really special plant, and that is plantain. And plantain, it'll grow just about anywhere. It'll grow between cracks in alleyways or, on pathways that have rocks and such. And plantain, you might not think of it as a flowering plant when you first look at it because it doesn't really have bright, big flowers. But if you look at that seed head that grows up through the center, you'll see tiny, tiny, tiny little, they look like little beads itself, almost like a little beaded tail or something. And I'm glad that we sort of saved the bergamot for the last one because this is actually one of my favorites. That's the scent of a bergamot to me is just so glorious. The moment I smell that on the prairie, it hits me like sage does, hits me like sweetgrass does. These are really aromatic plants where, to me, it grounds me immediately. And I don't know if it opens up ancient memories or what it is, but I feel very calmed by it and I like to think of, again, not just the physical appearance of something being beautiful, that is a form of medicine, but olfactory, the scent of something to me is a beautiful medicine. Horsetail. Now, when I was a little kid, I used to call this baby bamboo. But one day my dad looks over and goes, "What is with you in that plant? Like what's the deal with that?" He was laughing at me and I said, I just think it's kind of neat. And he goes, "Your grandpa used to brush his teeth with that." And I said, and I thought Dad was joking. It has little silicates in it. And people use those for scouring pots and scrubbing things down. And another thing is a nature's toothbrush to take off plaque and stuff. Grandpa did actually use it as a toothbrush. So it wasn't a joke after all. They're quite resilient. And this is kind of a good way to end because I think Métis people are resilient. We've always had to try to find a way. And we grow between the cracks. And we're still here.